KUAM TV8, first on Guam.
KUAM News, winner of the 2022 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Culture Club.
KUAM News headlines are presented by Calvo's Insurance, protecting Micronesia for 85 years. Matson, celebrating 25 years of commitment to Guam, Micronesia, and the CNMI. Cars Plus Finish Line Express is now open at Cars Plus in Mighty. The state-of-the-art car wash is now open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on KUAM News Primetime.
A man facing murder charges in connection to a deadly shooting in Ojeda is back in court. Doctors ruling defendant Nathan Ojeda is fit to stand trial.
Plus, a bill to beef up enforcement for those panhandling along Guam's roadways gets its day in the legislature. The chief of police testifies. Our Nestor Lacanto with the recap.
A solemn day here at the local prison as they are mourning the loss of their leader today. I'm Julian Hernandez with a tribute to a man whose talent also included capturing the beauty of others around him.
Hafidades and buenas noches. Bienvenido para KUAM News Primetime. Guahusinik Delgado.
Sa Guahusi Destiny Cruz, Sizos Maasi Puri Manano Mizu Guini na programa.
Well, developing news late today, Attorney General Douglas Moylan's motion to vacate the permanent injunction against the 1990 Guam abortion law has been denied in the District Court of Guam by Chief Judge Francis Sidinko Gatewood.
She ruled that while the AG argues that the legal basis for the permanent injunction no longer exists, he failed to address whether the change in law in the Supreme Court's Dobbs ruling supports vacating the injunction in its entirety. The plaintiff, Governor Leon Guerrero, argued that certain provisions of the law violate the First Amendment's freedom of speech clause. The judge ruled that the AG has not refuted his argument and therefore has not met his burden of proof. The court also ruled any other pending motions are moot. AG Moylan tells KUAM they respectfully disagree with the order, saying they will be reviewing the decision further and consider the next appropriate legal action.
We have more on that statement on KUAM.com. Well, in other news, murder defendant Nathan Ojeda going to trial before a jury in the Superior Court of Guam. Doctors ruling that he is competent after the defense pushed for the court to accept his insanity plea.
Ojeda wearing a face mask inside the courtroom today, where he found out he will need to come up with a strong defense to prove that he should not be convicted in the shooting and killing of AJ Mendiola. Murder defendant Nathan Ojeda back in Superior Court.
Okay, so we will set this for trial.
Presiding Judge Alberto Lamarena announcing his ruling from the bench today. Ojeda is fit to stand trial. Ojeda has since denied the allegations, pleading insanity in the deadly shooting of AJ Mendiola, the killing unfolding in Ojeda in January. Dr. Juan Rapadas, who performed the forensic evaluation, testifying on the witness stand that Ojeda did not lack the mental capacity to control his alleged actions. Defense attorney Joycelyn Roden questioning him about his findings.
You made an inference that paranoia or schizophrenia that may have been exhibiting was not from the organic disorder, but from a drug-induced state at that time. Is that correct?
That was an inference, correct.
Okay. What makes this case different from drug-induced psychosis from other clients of mine that you have found in the past?
Dr. Rapadas further backing his report.
There is a history of long-standing treatment of psychosis. I take that into consideration. If there were police reports or previous arrests of a defendant that's related to their behaviors, violent behaviors, treatment, diagnosis. I take that into consideration. In this matter, I didn't see an extensive or even semi-extensive history of any psychosis, schizophrenia, or treatment. And in other cases, I do.
That testimony then leading defense to take another shot at arguing why Ojeda is unfit for trial.
For other cases, you've actually interviewed family members. Did you interview a family member in this case?
Did not interview any family members.
Would it help in your forensic evaluation if you had interviewed other family members?
Rapadas saying that would not have made a difference, testifying that he had enough fact, citing records from the Guam Behavioral Health and the Guam Police Department, which included interviews from Ojeda's family. Meantime, investigators have yet to confirm the motive in the January 4th killing. Ojeda is set to go to trial on January 13th of next year.
A 34-year-old man is dead after being hit by a car in Anigua. It happened just before 8 p.m. yesterday along Route 1 Marine Corps Drive by H Mart. Guam police say the man was crossing the street when a car headed northbound hit him. The unidentified man was rushed to Naval Hospital, but he did not survive. Authorities are trying to locate his family. Highway patrol officers are investigating, though no arrests have been made. This marks the 6th traffic-related death of the year. Well, a man accused of raping a little girl at a bus stop, guilty. Franklin Taidagui Jr. was undergoing trial in the Superior Court of Guam. A jury returning with a verdict this afternoon convicting him of criminal sexual conduct against a minor. The incident happening back on July of 2018, the girl, only 10, when Taidagui grabbed her by the arm, pulled her to a bus stop and raped her for at least half an hour. The child eventually escaped. Taidagui will be sentenced at a later date. Attorney General Doug Moylan issued a response to the verdict stating, quote, "This new AG's office is selecting a new breed of prosecutors with a mission to protect vulnerable children against sexual predators in order to make our community safe for us and especially for our children." Panhandling on Guam's busiest intersections, in other news, has been a growing problem, and a bill to ban such activity drew qualified support from police.
But Chief Stephen Ignacio says the measure still needs some key changes in order to ensure that it meets its full intent. Nestor Lecanto has more.
We've seen more and more of them in recent years, holding up signs asking for help from passers-by. Legislation by Senator Roy Kinata seeks to ban such panhandling by repealing that section of Guam law altogether. But Police Chief Steve Ignacio says a full repeal will be a problem.
What law am I enforcing if we repealed the whole section? I don't have any teeth to enforce to give a citation. I can't make an arrest because now I don't have a law to enforce. So I think something we need to consider, this body needs to consider, is that it still needs to be defined, and then it needs to be defined as to what level of a crime it's going to be. Is it just going to continue to be a violation? Are we going to make it a petty misdemeanor? Are we going to make it a misdemeanor? God forbid we make it a felony, because I don't think this rises to that level.
The chief also says the act of panhandling itself needs to be specifically defined. Otherwise, it'll pose another problem for law enforcement.
So is that just a form of speech that is protected by the Constitution? Because he's not asking you for money. This person is just merely there at the intersection, standing there with a sign that says, "I'm hungry and I'm homeless." No different than if somebody was standing out at the intersection saying, "End domestic violence," right? It's an expression of speech and it's protected.
Senator said the intent is both to protect the people who frequent the busy intersections from getting injured and to encourage them to get the help they need. Officials also talked about having the bill apply to aggressive panhandlers who wait outside neighborhood stores, for example, asking people for money. Sponsor Senator Kinata agrees the bill needs more work.
We'll make those changes together, and we'll work collaboratively to ensure that there is some teeth and move forward with whatever language needs to be addressed.
Nestor Lecanto, KUAM News.
Well, he brought out the beauty in his work even while he led the operations at the Department of Corrections prison. Tonight, the community is mourning the death of Director Robert Camacho.
Bob, as many called him, has spent years in public service in Guam and in the Army. Many more knew him for his craft in capturing unique images through photography. Julian Hernandez has more.
A cross, flowers, candles, rosary beads, and this photo sits inside the director's office at the Department of Corrections in Manilao. It's a memorial set up just hours after the prison found out their beloved director, Robert Camacho, died overnight.
He cared about his staff. He made sure on the birthdays, take them out to lunch. He would treat. We would even tell him not to, but he would.
A minute. DOC Major Anton Uggan, like many who worked alongside Bob, still in shock over his sudden passing.
When we got the phone call Tuesday that he had a heart attack, of course it was very traumatic. We prayed, and then last night we got the message he passed away.
Camacho, a decorated Army veteran, served years in Gov Guam beyond his time leading the prison. He also worked as a parole officer in DOC. He was an acting director for Guam Customs and Quarantine and served as police chief for the Guam International Airport Authority.
He was a serious man. He came in and expected you to do your job, but he was also very loving and caring, and he made working fun, right? But, you know, he would do anything for anybody.
And off duty, Camacho still remained active in his community.
Robert would usually ask me what the need for the community, and especially for the church. Robert's been active for anything that we ask him to do.
Right.
And it's just sad, you know. He has a lot of contributions to the community. And it's just sad that a person like that would leave us so soon.
Agana Heights Mayor Paul McDonald says Camacho has been a friend for more than 3 decades. He was always a jolly man. Governor Lujan Guerrero sent her condolences, stating he was a promoter for justice with a peaceful, quiet demeanor who was a friend to all. Speaker Therese Tarlahi saying Camacho served the people of Guam honorably as a guardian of public safety. Senator Chris Barnett, his oversight chair, stated Bob didn't play politics, and that's why his leadership was so effective and sought after over the years. Camacho also had big plans in motion for the prison.
He was always concerned about rehabilitation and the inmates' well-being, and you know, working towards when they get released that they have a productive life outside. So he was really into programs, and you know, he didn't like inmates just sitting around doing nothing. He always wanted them to be doing things and to get their treatment so that when they return back, they're better off citizens.
Camacho's legacy also lives on through his photographs that illustrated a style unique to him. The photos including his signature. Bob Camacho was 61.
We here at KUAM have worked closely with Bob Camacho all these years. We are saddened by his passing. Our prayers to his family.
Yes, our sincerest condolences. We'll be right back.
Half a Day Fresco Fridays on KUAM News. Presented by Fresco Clothing, original custom design apparel of Guam and the Marianas. Located in Hagutnya, just across from the Gatti Shopping Center.
The wait is over, Guam. The all-new state-of-the-art car wash is now open at Cars Plus. Introducing Finish Line Express, open 7 days a week. The all-new cashless drive-through car wash is also the largest car wash on island that can accommodate vehicles such as lifted Jeeps and full-size pickup trucks. Just roll up, pick a wash, insert credit card, or show your EverWash app and roll through. Plus, power vacuums are available to clean the interior. Show your vehicle some love today at the all-new car wash at Cars Plus in Mighty. Open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
Honey, do you want some milk?
Do you ever wonder how your favorite products make their way into your local stores? Most arrive on state-of-the-art Matson vessels that transport containers of food, household items, equipment, and supplies into the islands every week. Because we know that you depend on us, we work closely with our partners to ensure that our shipments arrive on time, all the time, so you can find your favorite products when you need them. We transport the region's most precious cargo that supports successful businesses and promotes a better quality of life for our families. Matson is proud to have been the hometown shipping carrier for Guam, the CNMI, and Micronesia for the past 25 years, and you can count on us to be here for generations to come.
Welcome back to Primetime. The CNMI's top cop undergoing Senate confirmation, grilled by senators about how he will take over the Department of Public Safety, which has faced growing criticism for alleged corruption under the previous administration. And lack of readiness.
Regional correspondent Tomas Manglonia reports.
START is an acronym for service, trust, accountability, respect, and transparency.
Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Clement Bermudez answering questions from the Senate committee during a public hearing, vowing to bring those values back to the front line. And he says it starts with a lot of training.
Training apparently has become a one-time, one-and-done deal at the department. The academy is not the first and the last training event.
He wants to change that and the political influence that has seemed to take over the department over the years.
Politics stops at me. Okay? Politics has no business in the Department of Public Safety.
He says his priority are the officers on the front line who interact with the community every day. He also hopes to lead the department to be accredited.
You and I are on the same boat when it comes to accreditation, because it's more than just the Commonwealth. When we get accredited, just like in education, it's recognized at other places, so that our officers that serve 20 years here can go to Arizona PD, right, or some other police department and be at the same level as other other jurisdictions. So we need to up our game.
He says DPS plans to release a roadmap with its strategy leading up to 2030, which will reflect its budget. Meanwhile, Senate committee members say they will recommend his confirmation to the full body. Tomas Manglonia, KUAM News, Saipan.
While Guam passengers transiting through Hawaii to the U.S. mainland are getting fed up by USDA requirements to recheck their bags. Senator Jesse Lujan keeps hearing complaints about the baggage policy, which he says is especially inconvenient for the elderly and families with young children.
Now you've got to pick it up, go upstairs, have it checked out, and then recheck it in again to United ticket counter. Although, it's been checked all the way through, your bag is tagged all the way through, you have to recheck it in. And it's just that, and I don't understand, because your bags haven't left the airport since you checked it in from A.B. Wampa International Airport.
He's written to local and federal officials seeking relief for passengers. He's especially asking United Airlines to step in, as they're the lone carrier for the Guam-Honolulu route.
It's not United's fault. This is not a United policy. This is a USDA policy. But why is it that we, considered a domestic destination, have to go through this? I mean, no other domestic destinations have to go through this. If you're flying from California to Honolulu, you don't have to do this.
United Airlines sent a statement saying the company is reviewing the letter and will respond directly to Senator Lujan. Chamorro Land Trust Commission Executive Director opposes a bill that would transfer authority and jurisdiction of the Jigo Raceway Park to the Guam Department of Parks and Recreation. The discussion coming up during their monthly meeting earlier today, as commissioners asked Executive Director Alice Tyron for her thoughts on Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas's Bill 56.
Parks and Recs wants to run the Guam Racing Federation, run it. But the land belongs to Chamorro Land Trust Commission. The land belongs to our people. So you pay us a lease. You can lease it from us like anybody else, right? So I hope that answers your question. I do not support the bill.
The Raceway Federation was given a 90-day extension after a cease and desist notice early February caused public outcry. The extension allowing Motorsport Festival Smoke and Wheels to continue at the drag strip in late April. No word yet when the measure will be up for discussion in a public hearing. While the local business community representatives came out in strong support for a trio of bills that would provide more financial assistance to struggling companies. Richard Hart, the operator of several restaurants, says costs have skyrocketed and local businesses still need the help in order to survive.
We are all aware that Guam is now in the endemic phase of dealing with COVID. However, the last 3 years have been very long and painful and left us with many scars to deal with, some of which continue to grow. The end of the pandemic has brought on unprecedented inflation in America, the likes we have not seen in over 40 years. This, coupled with massive increases in power, water, and fuel, it has made for a very challenging environment for any business, and most especially for restaurants and food service operations.
The bills would provide more funding, $10 million and $15 million, for the Local Employers Assistance Program, or LEAP. It's a program established during the pandemic to provide low-interest loans or grants to companies who suffer significant business interruption. An evening fit for Mes Chamorro with local artisans, live music, and locally made and grown products. A collaboration with Hyatt Regency Guam and the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, the High Market was a night to remember, with the local community and visitors both enjoying the event. Hyatt Regency Resort Chef Brendan McKay.
We bring the market to the hotel, so they're aware that we have a hotel, and we show them what we have on the island as sustainable products. Vegetable, even a sustainable small business. They bring all the local things. You can get plants here. It's more about awareness. And it's also March, so it's Biba Mes Chamorro. So we have some live Kelaguen station here, some taro donuts we make with the produce that you can also buy here tonight.
Executive Chef Mirko Agostoni says he hopes the concept of an indoor market inside the hotel will continue.
We want the tourists, which we have in the house, to able to, if there is weather permitted or whatever, is not to go out. They can stay in the hotel, and for who cannot go out because there is no weather, they can come inside and find the souvenir, find the local produce, from the honey, from the soap, from the shrimp.
A great opportunity for both the local businesses promoting sustainability and GHRA to promote the island.
Well, the Department of Agriculture says farewell to one of their beloved birds. Buenas, the Coco Bird, passed away last week on March 16th.
He was known as Guam's Liberation Day Coco and spent hours and hours inspiring students during educational outreaches. Mitsuki Hirayama has the story.
The cry of the 79 Coco birds left in the care of the Guam Department of Agriculture. That number was 80 last week. Now this cage sits silent and empty. Buenas has left the coop, now flying high in Rel Heaven. Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources biologist Anthony Tornado is one of many who remember the beloved Coco.
I think Buenas is definitely a beloved bird, and he's touched the lives of many. He's been brought to many classrooms and was an advocate for many children and young adults again, and even the our elderly.
Buenas was 15, a long life for Guam Rel. Still here is Buenas' brother, Tano.
And we still have Tano, but again, I guess it's us wanting to be able to hopefully have a population steady enough to produce more education birds, because I like to call them our Coco workers. We take them out. They are truly the stars of this division in terms of the outreach of wildlife.
Tornado says sadly, Buenas' death points to a bigger issue. Most of the Coco birds at DAR are getting older, and it's been difficult to get more flown in.
So what it is that we haven't had consistent shipment of input from these birds in the United States to come to Guam. I believe last number I heard we had 10 birds slated for Guam, but they're just sitting at the zoos across, just getting older and waiting for, a flight to Guam.
He says 79 birds is the lowest by far, sharing issues with a major airline company unable to secure a flight for these flightless birds. The last time new Cocos were shipped to Guam was around 5 years ago.
They are the advocates for Guam's wildlife, and we hope that by children, young adults, and even the Manamcos, them seeing the birds really invokes memories and also hopefully inspires them to create new ones around the birds.
Buenas was DAR's ambassador for Guam's wildlife and spent many hours in local classrooms, inspiring many like Tornado.
14 years ago, Buenas came as a 1-year-old bird to my classroom in high school, and I didn't know what a Coco bird was, and that's when I started really researching what is this bird.
A full circle moment, now Tornado cherishing Buenas' last moments. Mitsuki Hirayama, KUAM News.
Fly high, Coco.
Buenas, buenas. Now
Or
for
buenas.
a look. It's okay. Now for a look at your world at home. Here's a view captured from the American Memorial Park shoreline in Garapan, looking out to Manyagaha.
Views like this, plus much more music streaming now on Isla Digital Radio. Just click that QR code.
Buenos Zenhafides. As you all know, our islands had a very successful year, and I'd love to hear about all of the progress we've made. Skylar, why don't we start with you?
We've helped over 1,200 Guam kids and their families pay for childcare.
And that's over $5.5 million in childcare costs so far. Over 130 after-school and community care programs have received grant funding for programs like swimming,
And cycling.
and soccer, and jiu-jitsu.
We've also graduated 3 cohorts.
And our provider certification program at GCC.
And certified over 75 relative care providers.
Looks like we have a message incoming from headquarters.
Hi kids, I just want to say congratulations on all your successes this
Without you.
Keep up the great work.
He's ready for recess.
Is paid for with funds administered by the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Dive right in. Welcome to KUAM Sports. Now time to check in with our partners with Clutch Guam.
Here's the final score.
Well, prepping for the off-season already after the championship game last year, the boys already know that there was a big target on their backs. And basically what they need to do is look at the competition and just play their best. This season, I think it's going to be very interesting on both the IAAG League and Isla League. There's some really great teams out there, so we're going to be able to look out for them.
The main thing that we're working on is defense, especially because we have new teammates in the system. But it's going well so far, and another thing is communication. You have to establish some form of communication, especially to the new ones on the team, and I feel like it's going well.
It's a bit unreal for me, actually. I never really imagined I was going to be in this position, being the youngster amongst the upperclassmen last year. But finally being in this position, I believe I've learned enough from my brothers before me to carry on and nourish, I guess, this young team.
In our league, the Isla team, we're going to be looking out, of course, for GW, all the schools, Ukudu, JFK, Simon Sanchez, Southern, they're all amazing teams.
We could expect some good heart out there. A bunch of Belize boys love the game just to play. Not really focusing too much on, the big chip behind our back, but just love to be out there to play, to spend time with each other and, make this season one to remember.
It's sometimes it makes me feel nostalgic because, like, dang, I was in that position once. But I'm happy to lead the boys and guide them in the right direction. Like I said, some of us have been through middle school and high school together, so I think we already established a form of communication with each other.
Well, every year is different. These guys gelled since they were 8th grade. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and it's going to be exciting to see them play together again at this level.
A lot of people, especially like a lot of the noise, all I hear is championship. But we try to block that noise out, and we try to just do our best in our parts.
This year we might lack depth, but we don't, and maybe height, but I think you're going to be surprised with the boys' athleticism. They could jump, they could read very well. Their volleyball IQ is top-notch.
We definitely go with a point-by-point mentality. It's not like we go in there and think we're, the number one team. We just try to play each point without that pressure and, just play our roles.
Afre, my name is Noel Erickson. I go to Tizan High School, and I play the position of right side in our boys volleyball team.
Afre, my name is Taron Buekes. I am the setter for the Tizan Titans High School volleyball team.
All right, hi, this is Coach Palmer from Tizan High School. This is my 7th year coaching here at Tizan.
And we'll be right back.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Don't need a work break, keep the smile on your face. The moments you can't replace, and I'll be around. Whoa. You can count on me. You can count on me for life.
Wherever life takes you, we're always here for you. Calvo's Insurance. Count on us for life.
Hi guys.
Feed Me Fridays is brought to you by Devondale. Real milk from free grazing cows.
Hey, hot day. It's Feed Me Fridays, and we're back at Snowberry. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Feed Me Fridays. But it's not me today. It's the other guy back there.
But today I'm trying a smoothie with some snowberry condiments on top of it, and this is called Two Mom Bait. Let's give it a try. Bruh, wow. The smoothie itself is delicious. It has that strong strawberry taste to it, and of course Devondale. Oh, so good. On a hot day, this is my go-to here at Snowberry. Wow, guys, that's been another edition of Feed Me Fridays. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Feed Me Fridays is brought to you by Devondale. Real milk from free grazing cows.
Darby and Vic giving us that up close and personal sweetness.
I love it.
I already want to go there and get my own fill. Now time for your Cold Stone Creamery Birthday Club shout out submitted on KUAM.com. Plus,
it's Friday, so we announced the winner of a yummy Cold Stone Creamery cake.
Happy birthday! And you know how we do things here, especially when it's a Friday. It's March 24th today, and we have got a special, extra special birthday present for tonight's celebrants because I have trained myself how to be artificially intelligent, right? There's an AI version of me. So here are tonight's birthday celebrants, courtesy of AI copying me. Happy birthday to Marie Cruz. Your sister Bobby Jean and family says, happy birthday to my amazing sister. You are such a blessing to our family, and we all love you the most. May God bless you with health, wealth, and prosperity in your life. Thank you for being such a supportive sister and best friend. I love you. Happy birthday to Keonu Sage. Happy 5th birthday, Keonu, the Ninja Master. Sage, love, the family, happy birthday. Darlene, Dare, Kineni Tupaz, happy birthday, baby sister Dar. Stay safe and enjoy yours and Mama's special day. Hugs to you. Love from all of your families and friends all over the world. And finally celebrating their birthday, Rayana Paredo, happy birthday to the best bear ever. Nana Bear, love all your kids, Gabby, Deuce, Connor, Caloray, Cody Bear, Chance, Cassius, and Kane. All right, that was super cool, but we have a birthday cake to give away, and you know, I'm not letting a computer do my job, man. I love this part. This is when we give away a Cold Stone Creamery ice cream cake, and this week's winner is Alethea Azuzu with this wonderful, wonderful picture in probably the happiest place on earth. So, for all of you that we mentioned today, AI me and real me, we hope you enjoyed your extra special present, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful island weekend and a wonderful birthday. Both of us, me and the computer, are wishing you the very best.
AI Jason, whoa, ay. It really did sound like him, though,
It really did. It's kind of, it's very interesting.
Interesting, kind of creepy.
Kind of
cool.
A little bit.
Well, guys, Estagui Eads and Mizu Primetime Show, si Zeus Maasi Put in Enega, Guahusi Nek Delgado.
Sa Guahusi Destiny Cruz na Fansafu Hamsi Zagosa Iponi.
KUAM News Hotspot is brought to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
The Eagles Field controversy has thrust the previously low-profile Ancestral Lands Commission back into the spotlight. It began with the governor's selection of the area, also known by its ancestral name of Lalo Mangilaw, for a $1 billion medical campus. A group of landowners have since made it clear during testimony before the legislature that they want their land back. But Admiral Benjamin Nicholson has also made it clear that the land is not excess and can only be used for public purposes and can't be returned. This January, Governor Leon Guerrero sent a land bank reform bill down to the legislature, which would place $10 million into the land bank trust fund this year and $2 million every year thereafter to compensate original landowners. The governor said the appropriations are meant to build up the land bank trust, which was created in 1999 but has not been regularly funded. It's the Ancestral Lands Commission that oversees the trust. Its job is supposed to be the return of excess land to original landowners or to provide compensation for those who will never get their land back. We talk with the executive director of the commission, John Birch, coming up next.
Good everyone, and welcome to The Hub. I'm Nestor Licanto, and this week our guest is John Birch. He is the executive director of the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Nestor. Glad to be here.
All right. First of all, as we mentioned during our intro package, the Ancestral Lands Commission is involved in a number of different things. And for those people, first of all, who may not be familiar with what the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission does, can you just give us an overview of your mission and your purpose?
Okay, the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission was established over 20 years ago in 1999. And it's responsible for facilitating the return of excess government lands to the original landowners or their heirs, except in circumstances when land is clearly under existing public use or are non-ancestral lands. So if the land is retained for public use by the federal or local government, the Ancestral Lands Commission is to compensate the original landowners or the heirs with funds from the Ancestral Land Bank Trust. And the funds in the Land Bank Trust are currently accumulated from lease proceeds of non-ancestral lands that the Ancestral Lands holds title to as trustees on behalf of the dispossessed ancestral landowners whose lands were taken by the United States government or the government of Guam on or after January 1st, 1930. So in a nutshell, that's who we are.
All right. So as you mentioned, it's been in place for the last 20 years or so. What is the current status of the commission, and how much, like, for example, land have you, how much compensation have you provided? How much land have you been able to return? That sort of thing.
Okay. As far as returned land, we've returned exactly 2,648 9 acres as of today. The last 5 acres were returned in November of last year. And these are properties that are returned under a U.S. law. It's 103.339, which allows us, it has a loophole that allows us to return properties. But not all properties are returned under that U.S. law. Some are returned under U.S. Public Law 106.504. And another one, I believe, is U.S. Law 100-202, which that one allows the federal government to return property directly to GPA. And these are like the power plants and such that are being returned. Those ones do not go through us. But under 106, 103, they are processed through ancestral lands. And it's only because of the recent issue of the lease of property for the medical campus in Manila that U.S. Public Law 103.504 has become public knowledge. People weren't aware of it in the past. What that did was close the loophole that was allowed for under the previous U.S. law.
Right. I want to get into more detail on that in a bit, but also wanted to ask, how about in terms of compensation?
Monetary compensation, we have not made any. And there's the problem with that is there's a problem with our Enabling Act. It's too ambiguous. And that's how come the governor, because of the solution that was needed caused by the roadblock of 106.504, the governor decided to fix this for us once and for all. She asked Ancestral Lands to come up with a solution, and we prepared that for her, and she went over it and she submitted it as in bill form to the legislature. And this will clear up that issue. That issue was brought up when where we had problems with that by the last, I guess in 2017, when Ancestral Land submitted some rules and regulations to the Attorney General's office. And let me find, I have a list of the issues that were brought up there that the AG had with it. And basically what the Attorney General said was, with the draft rules, it said, one, it lacked an economic impact statement as required by 5GCA. And it also contradicted the statutory mandate of the Land Bank to establish a mechanism for compensation to the beneficiaries of the Land Bank for the extinguishment of claims to the ancestral lands. Those rules, they had a perpetual clause in it, and that's not allowed. So we're definitely going to remove that. The big ones that we have that we need this law for is to correct with the current law is the statutory definition of land bank beneficiary. It's too ambiguous. And then the statutory guidance is insufficient to govern the distribution of land bank funds, which is an excess delegation of legislative power and a violation of separation of power doctrine. That was brought up by the Attorney General's office. In short, the opinion that until such time that the legislature amends the current statute with several specifics in regards to definitions and payment, and the Ancestral Lands Commission will essentially be unable to submit legally acceptable rules and regulations with regard to dispossessed ancestral landowner compensation. And the problem with that is that until that's done, the Ancestral Lands Commission cannot move forward with its mandate to compensate dispossessed landowners whose lands cannot and will not be returned until the land bank rules and regulations are finalized. And the Ancestral Lands cannot move forward with the land bank rules and regulations until the statutory issues that I mentioned earlier are addressed. And that's what the governor presented with this bill.
Yeah. John,
what's the
let me stop you right there. And we'll continue our conversation about the Land Bank Reform Act of 2023 right after this short break.
Guam's auto appearance specialist, Elegant Reflections, has been providing the automotive industry with professional detailing and car care products at its highest quality, from complete detailing, full interior detailing, exterior detailing, headlamp restoration, hand washing, seat and carpet shampoo, engine degreasing, undercarriage cleaning, paint sealant, fabric protection, paint oxidation removal, and so much more. Visit us at our new location. Call 646-5555 for an appointment. Elegant Reflections, Guam's auto appearance specialist, over 20 years of experience.
Okay, we're back with Guam Ancestral Lands Commission Executive Director John Birch, and before the break we were talking, John, about the Land Bank Reform Act of 2023, which the governor submitted, I think, late last year. You were talking about various issues that the AG had brought out that need to be embedded or corrected in the bill so that you can begin the compensation process. And as you mentioned earlier, you have not been able to compensate any ancestral landowners at this point. So once again, can you go over what the main hurdles are, and you think, and then I think this bill will go before a public hearing in April, correct?
I'm hoping so, at least to give us time to work with our partners across the street at the legislature to come up with a solution. They may not agree with everything that we've proposed, but if they have a counter proposal, at least let's find something to finally compensate the ancestral landowners who had their property taken from them unjustly. So that's what we need. We do definitely need the public hearing to iron this out. The governor put our proposal forward before them, and now we need to know what their response is to that and see if we can come up with some compromise, something that will work, a solution to this whole issue. But like I said earlier, from what the AG told us is that we can't move forward till we fix the law. The law is too ambiguous. They transferred too much authority to ancestral lands. They transferred legislative authority to the executive branch, which is not allowed. And because of that, the AG rejected the original draft rules and regs, or proposed rules and regs, that were submitted back in 2017. And so until we fix that, we can't move forward with the rules and regs. So we got to fix the law first. And that's what this whole new proposal is. It's a solution to that. So as soon as we get the public hearing on this, we can move forward and hopefully work together. I mean, there are issues of returning the property. 106 was a big one that came out recently. And because of the spotlight on the return of property for the medical center shined on the lots up there, because those properties in Manila, the transfer authority they've been given back to GovGuam is under 106-504.
Yeah.
And that's why the spotlight is shown on this. But then in a way that's good for the rest of the ancestral landowners, that we do have this spotlight, because now the issue is finally being addressed. Before this administration, before the Leon Guerrero Tenor administration came in, not too many people heard about ancestral lands or even knew that it existed. Everybody confused us with Chamorro Land Trust or Department of Land Management. It was only when we decided to resolve this issue, and one of the first acts of the governor, our first executive order, was to reestablish the agency, because she knew there were issues that had to be brought forth, and this is one of those. So she really wants to return the property if possible, but we've informed her that because of this law that I guess very few people were aware of. I mean, this law has been around since the year 2000.
Right.
And until we shone the light on it with what was going on with the Manila property in the area Lalo, which is also referred to as Eagles Field, until that came about, people weren't aware of this problem. People assumed that the process for returning property was already set because of what of the way it was handled under previous U.S. law, that 103-339, which allowed or provided a loophole for economic development or economic benefit and returning property. It was opinion by the legislature, and they came up with local laws that said that returning property to original landowners would provide for economic benefit for the island by them developing their property and so on. But as soon as they established ancestral lands in 1999, then 106-504 came out in the year 2000 to close that loophole. So that kind of ended it, but not all property is being returned under 106-504. We still have property being returned under 103-339. So those properties, we will look forward to returning it to the original landowners. The process for that would be that as soon as the properties received by the government of Guam through the Department of Land Management, the director there would transfer that to us, and we'll put it in our excess land registry. And then our commissioners, the board that oversees my actions, will decide what to do with those properties. If GovGuam or a government agency wants those properties, they have 45 days to petition the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, and they will make that decision at that time. And I can say that the board they are very, very concerned about returning property to original landowners, and they would do their best to find a way to get that returned to the original landowners. But 106-504 kind of cut that off, you know.
Right.
So,
talk a little bit more about compensation too, because there are going to be landowners who will never get their property back. They may want an exchange, and that's a potential resolution as well. But compensation is also in the cards for those who, you know, whose property is on beneath structures that, you know, will not be allowed to be returned. So I know the governor had submitted a bill that provides $10 million for the land bank, and then $2 million a year going forward. Talk about that aspect.
Okay. Most of the funds that we make, currently we have close to 16 million in the land bank. But compared to the 2,000 or so claimants in the John Bond files, I mean, and not all land ancestral landowners are claimants in the John bonds. Many of them weren't aware that that was even going on. They were off island, or they just simply weren't aware of it. So many of those people are coming in.
John, for those who don't know, John Bond was the attorney for the original
yes,
land claims commission, I believe it was.
Yes, and that was back in the 70s, and some of them receive some compensation, but according to many of the people we talked to, the compensation wasn't worth the value of the property. So they're still claiming for their lands, and that's what we're trying to fix here, is the injustice that occurred, you know, when people had their properties taken back in 1950. You know, they had a big sweep, you know, right after the war. The military came in and decided that they needed property for national defense, and they took over a huge portion of our island. And at first they did it under the guise of leases. And if you go back and look at all the properties back before we became U.S. citizens with the passage of the Organic Act, everything was listed as leases. And so people assumed the property were being leased. But as soon as the people of Guam became U.S. citizens in 1950, all of a sudden those leases became condemned properties under eminent domain. And many people didn't realize that their properties were condemned. They assumed that they were getting paid leases for it, and they wondered why the leases stopped. So these were the stories that we received from talking to people. So there was a lot of controversy, and there still continues to this day, you know, during those land takings because of that. But yes, with the bill that the governor submitted, currently the way things worked out is that to be a member of or be a beneficiary of the land bank, your property with the current law, your property must have been returned to GovGuam and kept by GovGuam for continued public use. The example I always use is the airport. You know, there's about 400 families up there where we actually have the airport seated at, and they didn't get, and they will never get their property back because it's kept for the community use, for continued public use. There's 400 families, and it's about 1,000 acres. So that is, those people will fall under and do fall under the land bank. For those people whose properties are leased from the federal government and whose properties have not been returned to GovGuam, they will not. And this is, a lot of people aren't aware of it. Much of the GPA power lines are federal leases. So those people will not be included. And of course, those whose properties are behind the fence, like at Naval Station and Anderson and Naval Magazine, those properties, I doubt are going to ever be intended to be returned to the government of Guam. So they're not part of the land bank. Only those whose properties have been returned and kept by GovGuam currently are part of the land bank. So what this bill proposes to do is to include all those folks. They have two classifications. One to be class 1, and class 1 would include all those whose properties have been returned to government of Guam, or those who have been given control to GovGuam, for example, through leases. And that would take care of the area in Eagles Field. They become class 1s and automatically become members of the land bank.
Okay, John, let me take a quick break before we can go back and we'll come back and go into more details of what you're talking about, because I think that's what people are going to be very interested in, especially those who may not know what the mission of the Ancestral Lands Commission has been all these years. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll go back and dig deeper into what you're talking about in just a moment.
The wait is over, Guam. The all-new state-of-the-art car wash is now open at Cars Plus. Introducing Finish Line Express, open 7 days a week. The all-new cashless drive-through car wash is also the largest car wash on island that can accommodate vehicles such as lifted Jeeps and full-size pickup trucks. Just roll up, pick a wash, insert credit card, or show your EverWash app, and roll through. Plus, power vacuums are available to clean the interior. Show your vehicle some love today at the all-new car wash at Cars Plus in Mighty. Open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
All right, we're back with Guam Ancestral Lands Commission Executive Director John Burchin. Before the break, John, you were talking about the process by which folks who may have a claim as ancestral landowners what that process might look like. Can you please just continue on that?
Yes, we were on class 2. Class 1, again, to repeat that, class 1 are those people whose properties have been returned to Gov Guam and kept for continued public use. And those whose property in the bill will be those properties who are leased or control is given back to Gov Guam. Now, class 2 are those people whose properties are kept by the federal government with no intent to ever be returned to Gov Guam. Those are like the military bases, you know, up at Anderson Air Force Base, Naval Magazine, Naval Station, and now Camp Bloss, and other properties that may be used for missile defense systems. So that would include those folks. And the governor feels that, and we feel here at Ancestral Lands, that you know, the injustice that these people went through with the land condemnations and takings back in 1950 have not been addressed. Some of them were paid only a few dollars for acres of property. And today, you know, even with the John Bond land claims, many of them weren't paid what their value was. So this bill also sets up a way for us to deal with that. And that's not provided for in the current law. So hopefully, if we sit down with the legislature and go over this, we can go over it in great detail and to find what the policy is of the legislature, because they set policy for Gov Guam. Do they want to continue with just the current beneficiaries who are listed as beneficiaries of the land bank, if they want to keep that as their policy and not include people whose properties have been leased to Gov Guam, whether it be Eagles Field with a lease that we know that's coming, and or GPA or Waterworks who have leases with the federal government that nobody really thought about in the past, that this is a whole lot of people out there. Do they want to include these folks whose properties are kept by the federal government but are being used by Gov Guam currently for utilities? And what about the folks who will never get their lands back? Those up at Anderson and Naval Station. The legislature has to set policy for that. Right now, that's ambiguous as far as the current laws is concerned. And that's where we had a problem with the first rules and regs that were submitted, because the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission felt that the way the current law is written, it allowed for that, and they included everyone. But when it got to the Attorney General's office, they disagreed. So we have to set policy. The legislature, that's their duty. They have to tell us and what the policy will be. So what we did is we included all of them in this bill when we presented it to the governor, that Ancestral Lands and all others want, and all these folks out there we talked to, they want to be included as beneficiaries of the land bank. And so we threw all of that in, and we'll let the legislature make the decision. Who do they want to cut out, or do they want to leave it as it is today with only those folks whose properties have been returned and kept by Gov Guam?
Right.
You know, it's a policy decision, and we feel here at Ancestral Lands that we want to, first priority is to return property to all the landowners out there who's had their properties taken. That's our number one priority. Now, if we can't do it for whatever reason I mentioned earlier, at least to try to find some justice in this and compensate them monetarily if possible. Now, with that compensation, it's who becomes beneficiaries of the land bank. Those whose properties who were returned and kept by Gov Guam, or those whose property are leased by Gov Guam or Gov Guam has control over it, or to include those whose properties are still held behind the fence. And of course, if you talk to all these landowners, like what we've done here, we actually had various meetings with them last year on this over months at a time. And at times it was 2 or 3 times a week, having meetings with the families of these landowners. And of course, they all want their property returned. Sure. I don't blame them. I mean, it's a part of our culture. What defines our culture is not only our language, but our land. That's